Welcome to the InStory Show. I'm Devorah Spilman, your host, and today I am thrilled to welcome Bridget Anderson. Hi, Bridget.
Hi.
So Bridget is a gifted healer, teacher, and spiritual counselor, and she helps guide clients to their true self by helping them release blocks and unknotting energy pathways and connecting to spirit vibrations and a lot of other really cool stuff. But before I let her tell you all about that, we're going to dive into Bridget's story and a little bit like as she's a member of the InStory Way, and a lot of what we're showing you is the power of our stories and the power of your story. And so, Bridget, I would love if you would start with a little bit about what it was like for you when you were a kid, and then, kind of take us, then we're going to kind of go step by step through some turning points that have led you to becoming the, spiritual guide and teacher that you are today.
Thank you. When I was a child, I had a really good connection with spirit. And I would talk to individuals in spirit and not realize that other people could not do so. And I did this through age 11. And it was very handy, when I needed help, they were there to encourage me to do what I was supposed to do. I learned how to compromise, with spirits who, were a little ornery. And, when I was 7 and we moved a lot, we moved into a new house, and there was a spirit in the basement, and our playroom was in the basement, and he didn't want us coming down there, but we had to go down to play. And so problem solving, we made an agreement where he would have one side because that was where it was dark anyway, and we would have the other side, and that was where the playroom was anyway, and so everybody was happy. And it worked, so that was fun. And my mom even got to the point where she would ask me before she went to the washer and dryer, because that was on his side, if he was down there, because she could feel something wasn't right, but she didn't know what. And I would say, because I had explained to her why she felt that way, and he wouldn't be there. So she would go down and get the clothes. Or if he was there, she'd wait. I don't think she remembers that. It was a long time ago. But I didn't know that this wasn't normal. And then when I was when I was 11, I was talking at the dinner table about the people in the kitchen. And my family looked around like I was nuts. I was like, well, don't you see them? They're right there. And my parents looked at each other, and that's when I realized, okay, I shouldn't be talking about this, because they look like there's something wrong here. And so then not long after that, I heard my guides tell me that I was the only one in my family who could hear this way, and that they did not know what I was experiencing, and that most people did not know what I was experiencing. And I was very surprised, because I thought this was what was normal for everybody. And so I started to differentiate between myself and my experiences and what regular people experienced. And that's when my learning became important and able to be able to explain later in life now, to be able to help others, because there is a difference with people in different degrees of understanding and the different pathways, and they're here to learn different things. And so that turned out to be very important. And so I fast forward and into teenage years, and I was very lucky to be in a church that was progressive with allowing the Holy Spirit to come through us to heal others and to help others. It was a Catholic church, but it still was progressive, and it was a very big focal point because I was there, my friends were there, and then we went to CYO, we went to the same high school. So it was a very close-knit group, and I was getting supported at home because my mom was going through it, my dad went through it. So my whole support system was with this. There was no formal training, but it was the beginning of working with divine energy. And then I went to college and I lost all that. And when I lost all that, and I'm in a whole different environment, a different energy makeup, and I've got, roommates and dorm, suite mates, and the belief systems are terribly different. Nobody was on the same wavelength. And so my energy started to diminish. My connection started to weaken, even though it was still there, and I would still call upon it, and I would still, because it had been ingrained and taught into me that, you do allow the divine to work through you. That was still apparent, but I couldn't talk to anybody even about that part, because whenever I tried to express it, what was happening to me, there were no words, there were no terms. It was not something that at that time was mainstream. And so I didn't know how to articulate what was going on. And so it got to a point where I was feeling very empty, and I would allow myself to, be used as necessary to help others, but I did not have anyone to assist me, and also nurturing myself and, healing myself and reminding myself that, I need to take care of me before I can be of great service to another. And it brings me back to that airplane example where you have to put the mask on yourself first before you can put the mask on someone else, so that you can help everybody else. And so I became a terribly empty vessel. I was lonely. I was distraught. I was depressed. And it came to a point where I was suicidal. And I did not know why I was walking on the earth, because there was no reason for me to be here. I wasn't helping anyone. I wasn't helping me. I wasn't doing anything productive. And so I decided that I needed to address that issue. And there was a fear I had of the dark, because I felt that energetically things were coming at me in an attack sort of fashion every time there was pitch black. I couldn't do pitch black. And so that was the beginning of me looking within. And so one night I just said, I'm going for it. And I'm going to be brave tonight. Those footsteps I hear coming up the stairs, I know there's nobody there because I've looked 100 times. The shadows on the floor that I see, I know there's nobody there because I've looked and looked. I said, I'm just going to close my eyes and I'm going to do this. And I did. And I was afraid I was going to die when I did this. And so it had gotten to the point where it needed to be done, and regardless of the outcome. And so I went in and I relaxed and I didn't fight it any longer. And I just waited to see, what would happen. And at that moment, when I went under and I experienced, a voice asked me, do you want to live? And it was not my conscious mind that answered, but it was my spirit that answered and said yes. And I remember feeling physically, in my physical being, my mind being very surprised that that was the answer because of how I felt. And I'm like, wow, my spirit wants to be here. Why? You know? And so from that moment on, I needed to get my consciousness in line with my spirit because I was out of alignment. And so I worked on shadow work to get those two in a line, to be able to move forward without such heaviness. And so at that time, I started working on dysfunctional family issues that, you know, pretty much everybody has from the time you were young. When you perceive things when you were 6, you really, when you look back on them, you're like, okay, even though I understood it when I was 6 this way, it really was, you know, just, you know, this other thing. And so I reframed ideas, and without telling myself that I was wrong in the way I felt something, I was authentic to that, and I was true to that, and I honored that part of me in the way that I felt, and it was explaining, you know, to myself the way that points of view, you know, change or are different, and you're not just looking through a pigeonhole, that everybody has their own little pigeonhole, and so, you know, you see all the different parts of the elephant at the same time. So I went through the darkness and came out into light, and I could breathe again, you know, and it was, the tunnel had, you know, ended, and you walk out, and it's, you know, sunshine and warm air, and, you know, butterflies and birds are singing, and it's, you know, it's a whole new world, and you're on the other side of the rainbow.
How long ago, Bridget, how long ago was that from now?
The starting or the rainbow?
No, the kind of coming out of it.
It probably took me at least 20 years.
Because, you know, one of the things you'll talk about at the end is how much faster people are now able to do this work.
Oh, so much faster.
Yeah.
The energy back then when I started, just the energy in general was a lot denser than it is now. And we were all working basically in isolation, you know, to the point where there was a school that I could have gotten instruction from only 2.5 hours away from where I was living when I was 25, and I didn't know it existed because we didn't have the internet like we do now. And so I went through all of this using a couple of textbooks or workbooks or whatever the library had, and my own intuition, guidance from my, you know, spirit guides, and just did the hard work, you know, layer by layer, level by level. And now it's totally different. You can probably do in a year what took me 20 years to do.
Right.
And those of us who went through it and did the long haul, we've come up with ways that we can look back and say, oh, I did all of this, but I can condense it down now into, you know, you just do these things and you get the whole process done because it's been streamlined. I don't know a better way to think of it, but you know, I used to work in, I went from that to working into the energy grid. Even at the part of the time I was doing the shadow work, I was still in the energy, working in the energy grid because I had gone up some levels beyond just me. And it was put to me as, okay, what if you were in this situation? What would you want yourself to know? Because that was the only way I could answer a question in the energy level, is what would work for me. And there were times when I would think this would work for me. And then I would go through that experience and learn whether or not that would work for me. And so I perfected very quickly knowing what would work for me, because then it avoided, oh, okay, I can do this. I should do this, because I would get that advice. So it's almost like precognition and saying, what would you want to know if? And then when it happens, that's what would cycle back in a boomerang type fashion. Actually, personally, I refer to it as the boomerang effect. I came up with my own lingo because it started so young in my life that when I hit the next turning point, which was when someone who was very close to my heart died in 2008, and that became another dip. Even though I was very grateful for learning unconditional love, it twisted my heart to such an extent that I became very despondent, and finally got the message about a year later that Spirit wanted to talk to me. And I was like, okay, thinking back to when I was a teenager and the Holy Spirit, right? So I went to the library, and I found these books, and I learned that there were such things as spirit guides and spirit teachers, because this was now in 2009, where it's now starting to become, this was 10 years ago, starting to become more, not necessarily accepted, but at least talked about. And I was like, whoa, I didn't even know that stuff existed. You mean I had all of this all along? I was a little perturbed, honestly, for a couple of years that nobody told me this. And I was like, oh my God, and so I would tell like everybody. And I'm like, did you know this? And so my friends thought I was a little nuts, but they still talk to their spirit guides and the angels, and, ask for help. And there really is, a parking lot angel, that gets referenced in the movie Michael. And they do find parking spaces for you, unless you need to exercise, and then it's a little further away. At least mine are. But so I was reading like 30 to 50 books that summer, and that made a huge difference. I just couldn't get enough. And it was what I had been missing. Was this next level of instruction, this next level of interaction, which starts me being able to have a community. Even though it's just reading books, the authors were talking about things that I could understand, even though I did not know the terminology. So I had to change my language that I created from when I was a kid, to be able to associate with others with the terms that the authors were giving everybody to use. And so I had to learn, the word chakra and the word energy, and associate what I do and how I work, and get the proper vocabulary down, which was fine. A little learning curve, but that's okay. I was glad to finally be able to speak, about it, when for so many years I had been told in spirit that you can't reveal this yet. Is that these people aren't ready yet. And it was also that I wasn't ready yet, because once the reveal happens, then the action after the reveal has to happen. And my vibration had not risen to the point where I could be of assistance to the extent that I can now.
Right. And I think that's true for a lot of people. I think that's why we have series like this, where you're able to actually tell your story in this public domain. Like, I don't know how often you've had a chance to actually tell your story or felt safe to tell your story, So I think there is a big shift?
Well, I probably did not feel safe to share my story with strangers until I joined the InStory group. I attempted at work to hint here and there, and always got disapproval of that nature. Now, I do have friends, a few friends that are okay with it, but most of the people, even family members, they're a little on the edge as far as me discussing just the tip of the iceberg of what occurs in my life. But in the InStory group, I can express that, and it's taken in a very positive way. Nothing is very safe. Nothing is put down. Nothing is seen as, oh my God, you're hearing voices. You need to go to the hospital. It's, what are they saying, and sharing that, and sharing the guidance that the divine is willing and wanting to express into the world right now. So I'm very thankful for having joined the InStory group, because it's given me the ability to find my voice when it was time to do so. And I was led there, literally led there through listening to opening up an email and listening to a recording. And I read the tagline on it, something about the story of your soul, and my soul cried out in answer. It did. I could feel it,
Right.
And so I knew that was, regardless, that was where I needed to be. And so I did that, and I'm very grateful and thankful that I did that, because that has allowed me to get to the point of processing everything that has happened in the past, and everything that I do have that assists and helps other people. And to be able to offer that is a gift, to be able to help other people get beyond their stumbling blocks, get to their creativity and express their true self. That's, to me, it's wonderful. I can't think of anything better at the moment.
I'm so with you, and that's the whole point of the InStory Way group and of this whole show, that we're focusing on this time about coming out of hiding and daring
Yes.
to be seen, right? And so, so I think we're going to have to save them going through a process with you for them to book with you, because I really would love for you to talk a little bit about, like, just a friend that you helped, like how this work has started to shape itself into making, like, you couldn't walk away from it. Like you could even talk a little bit about how you tried, and but really I want you to, like, you are such a good example of why it's so important for us to tell our stories and come out of hiding, because we're being called to make a difference for each other in such a powerful way. So I just want you to tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay. I have a degree in metaphysical healing, but I had not extended out to my community due to insecurity. And so I worked on confidence for me, and then was able to extend my healing abilities to a friend of mine. And she was suicidal, and working with me over the course of maybe a year, she is now in a totally different place. She's happy. Her energy is light. She's not and never will be again in that place that she was, because she has released everything that put her there. And releasing that old energy, it creates a new life. And it has for me. And now what I've done with myself, I'm now able to do with others. And it makes a huge difference in being able to be who you're meant to be.
Yeah. And so, okay, so say a little bit about your free gift, and then people will be able to do your free gift and then share their experience from it in the Facebook group for the show.
Okay. My free gift first is an ebook of 7 hacks for self-confidence. It's very hard to reveal anything about yourself when you don't have that confidence. And so there were certain skills I needed in order to be able to go out into the world, to be able to put myself out, even to be able to put myself out in the world for just me to see. Just to put it on paper sometimes was hard, to get it out of my head. And so that's what the first part of my free gift is. And then the second part is you can schedule a 30-minute consultation with me so that you can see if this is something that would benefit you, if there's if it's a good fit, and answer any questions that you may have about the different modalities that I can offer, which are pretty expensive.
It's very expansive. It's like there's I always like, it's expensive. No, it's expansive. And so that's a powerful thing. That free consultation will really give you all a sense of how quickly and powerfully you can actually shift out of being stuck. Because part of, I think, why people are so afraid to be seen is from a lot of the wounds that Bridget deals with. And it's just so exciting how much quicker and easier it is to heal these wounds now. And it's amazing. But part of the problem has been that I've seen, just like for you, is that we're stuck, and so we're not bringing out our gifts to each other. So that's why this whole summit and everything I do makes me so excited. I just think the world is calling us forward. And you can ask Bridget a little bit more about her story, because it's amazing about, we're lucky that you're still here is all I can say. Okay, but so we're almost out of time, but I would love if you would sort of leave us with a few last thoughts about what has helped you and what might help the people listening.
What has helped me the most was to realize that I needed to allow myself to receive from the divine whatever it was that I needed to receive, and not trying to control what it was that I thought I needed to receive. Receiving has always been difficult. It's always easier to give to me than it is to receive. And the allow, and to just be and to breathe, and that it's okay. Regardless of whatever is happening, it's okay. You're learning what you are supposed to learning, and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you're why you're here is what you're in the process of doing and learning. I think all of that, and being okay with being perfectly imperfect, is has been very primary in my life, especially since 1993, when I realized perfectly imperfect is exactly what I was supposed to be.
I really do love that so much. I'm always about that it's not about being perfect. It's about being authentic and trusting and stretching beyond what we thought was possible. So, Bridget, thank you so much. I just feel very excited about who you are and what's been given to you to bring out in the world. And the world just wasn't ready. And many of you watching probably have had that experience of that sense that the gifts you were given, the world weren't ready for them, but now the world is ready. So, so Bridget, thank you again.
Oh, thank you for having me on your show.
So, and everybody, as I always say in parting, first of all, before I say that, is remember to jump into the Facebook group and be brave. Share, did you have gifts as a kid that you loved and then you shut them down? Connect with us, reach out to Bridget, get her free gift, work on your confidence, and book a time to talk with her, because there is truly an opening in the world right now. And as I always say, go out in the world and share your story, live your purpose, and be a blessing. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.